So the first part of the lab is to find the mass of a candle. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to put a watch glass on the scale. And the reason we're going to do this is because our candle is going to be on this watch glass during the lab. And I don't want to have any melted wax on there that I can't get off. So I'm actually going to find the mass of the watch glass. I'm going to zero the scale. Then we're going to put the candle on the watch glass and record its mass, because we're going to leave it on the watch glass afterwards when we're reweighing it after the burning's been done. So it looks like we have 1.16 grams. So record that for the mass of the candle in your data table. All right, next up, we're going to measure exactly 100 milliliters into a graduated cylinder, and we're just going to use tap water. So let's fill this up here. All right, if we look at this, it might be a little bit above 100, but we're pretty darn close. So there's our 100 milliliters, and we're going to put this in our beaker. All right, we're going to pour 100 milliliters into our 250 milliliter beaker. And then we're going to take a thermometer and measure the temperature. Looking at the thermometer, it looks like our water has a temperature of about 19.5 degrees Celsius. So we're going to record that on our data table for trial number 1. All right, so you've got our candle here. We are going to light it, and we're going to set it underneath this beaker of water for 5 minutes. And then we're going to record the temperature of the water after the 5 minutes, and we're going to remass our candle as well to see how much mass we lost. So here we go. Let's light our candle. Start our timer. And here we go. All right, it's been 5 minutes. So we're going to remove our candle from underneath our beaker here. And we're going to take the temperature of the water. All right, so looking at the thermometer, it looks like our temperature is maybe about 38 degrees Celsius after that 5-minute period. So we're going to record that on our data table for trial number 1. All right, so we're going to find the mass of our candle now that our burning is done. We're going to put it on the scale. Now remember, our watch glass is here, and originally our watch glass was 53.18 grams. So it says 53.99. We're going to subtract 53.18 grams, and that means that our candle now has a mass of 0.81 grams after 5 minutes of burning. So we're going to record that data on our data table for trial number 1. We're here for trial number 2. We're going to repeat the same things we did for trial number 1. So first we're going to put a watch glass on our scale. We're going to record the mass of this watch glass. And then we are going to zero the scale and take the mass of our new candle. So this is now for trial number 2. And it looks like the mass of this candle is 1.18 grams. We're going to record that in our second data table. All right, we're here for trial number 2. We've got 100 milliliters of water in our beaker, and we are going to take the temperature of the water before we light our candle. All right, so it looks like the temperature of our water before we burn for trial number 2 is about 20 degrees Celsius. So we're going to record that on our data table for trial number 2. Okay, our candle is secured to our watch glass, so we're going to light it, and we're going to put it under our beaker and start the timer. So here we go. And begin. All right, it has been 5 minutes, so we are going to pull our candle out here, and we're going to take the temperature of our water. All right, so looking at our thermometer, it looks like our temperature is at about 37 degrees Celsius. We're going to record that down for our trial number 2. All right, so now we're going to find the mass of our candle after burning for trial number 2. Remember, though, our watch glass did have an initial weight of 30.38 grams. So we're going to have to subtract that. So we have 31.25 minus 30.38, and that means that our second candle after burning has a mass of 0.87 grams. So record that in your data table for trial number 2. All right, we're done with the virtual lab portion, and now we're here for the post-lab questions. If you have your sheet in front of you, or I guess your document, because it's going to be on a computer, I just have it on paper in front of me. We're going to answer these questions here together. So starting with the first one, it says, find the change in the mass of the candle. So what I'd like you to do right now is pause the video real quick, and for trial 1 and trial 2, I'd like you to find the change in mass of the candle, and then you can resume and see if you got the same numbers that I did. So the numbers that I got for trial number 1, we had a change of 0.35 grams, and for trial number 2, we had a change of 0.31 grams. And I got those numbers by taking the original mass of the candle, which for trial 1 was a 1.16 grams, and subtracting that by the mass of the candle after burning, which was 0.81 grams, and that's how I got 0.35 grams for trial number 1. I did the same thing for trial number 2, and I got 0.31 grams. Number 2. The change in the mass of the candle per minute. All right, so again, pause the video and try calculating this on your own, and then you can hit resume and see if you got the same thing that I did. All right, so for trial number 1, I got 0.07 grams per minute, and for trial number 2, I got 0.062 grams per minute. And how I got those numbers was I took the change in mass of the candle and I divided that by the total amount of time that they were burning for. So in this case, for trial number 1, I took 0.35 grams and divided that by 5 minutes, and that's how I got 0.07 grams per minute. And then for trial number 2, I took 0.31 grams, divided that by 5 minutes to get 0.062 grams per minute. Question number 3 says, find the change in the temperature of the water. So again, pause the video, try calculating this on your own, and then I will tell you what my numbers are. So for trial number 1, I got 18.5 degrees Celsius. And for trial number 2, I got 17 degrees Celsius. And so how I got that was, I took the temperature of the water before we burned our candle, and I took the temperature of the water after we burned the candle for 5 minutes, and I just found the difference between the two. So for trial number 1, that was 38 degrees minus 19.5 degrees, and for trial number 2, that was 37 degrees minus 20 degrees. Lastly, question number 4, it says find the change in the temperature of the water per minute. So again, last time, pause the video, try calculating this on your own, and then hit resume and see if you can match up your numbers with mine. For trial number 1, I got 3.7 degrees Celsius per minute. And for trial number 2, I got 3.4 degrees Celsius per minute. And how I got that was I took the change in the temperature of the water, which was 18.5 degrees Celsius for trial number 1, and divided that by 5 minutes to get the change in temperature per minute. So it's just 3.7. And then trial number 2, I took 17 degrees Celsius and then divided that by 5 minutes to get 3.4 degrees Celsius per minute. All right, so the final question here for this post lab is on the very, very end. And it says, were there any sources of error for this lab? And if so, where did those sources of error come from? So I would say that there definitely was some error in this lab, mostly human error. And I know that is because between trials 1 and trial 2, the mass of my candle was a little bit different in terms of how much it lost, as well as the temperature change for each one was slightly different. Now, it could be, of course, that they're just different because the universe willed it to be different. However, I think that human error played the biggest role in this. So I would say that the main difference between trial 1 and trial 2 was when the timer ended for trial 1, I didn't pull the candle out right away from under the beaker. I kind of let it sit there for a little bit longer just because I was writing some stuff down and getting some things ready. So the candle was maybe under the beaker for longer than 5 minutes, maybe 5 minutes and 25 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds. And whereas the second trial, as soon as the timer went off, I pretty much pulled the candle out from underneath probably within 5 to 10 seconds. So I think that extra little bit of time where it was under the beaker allowed the candle to heat the water up a little bit more, as well as, of course, we burned a little bit more candle. So that's primarily where I think the sources of error came from. I don't think that there was any problems with our equipment, like our scale or our thermometer or anything along those lines. I think it was 100% just human error. So, all right, guys, that is it for this lab. I hope that you learned a little bit about just doing some calculations and determining some measurements and some rates. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, reach out to me, talk to me in class, and just make sure that you are not confused. All right, that is it for this virtual lab. Thanks for sticking with me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.